Welcome everyone to episode 3 of Not In, All In. Another show here in the Buchnerverse at notinhallofame.com. And hey, it's a play on words. We're notinhallofame.com and we're all in talking about, well, whatever it is we want to talk about. I'm Kirk Buchner with Chris Mouradian. Hey, do you know what you and I have in common today?
What's that?
We're both having a better day than Shannon Sharpe.
That is true. Majority of the world is having a better day than Shannon Sharpe today.
Oh, I'm sure there's some people who may not be. I'm not going to comment any further because there's a lot of things still that can play out. I have a feeling that might be a discussion a little later. Shannon, though, you should be smarter than this in terms of who you're picking, but you're Shannon Sharpe, dude. But
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. That's my only comment right now.
Yeah. Could cause for some interesting. You'd think that he would be the presenter for his brother at the
Still
Hall of
good.
Fame ceremonies later this year. It could, depending on how this plays out, that could be kind of something they want to steer away from.
It depends on how this goes. Or I guess we're
Yeah.
talking about it a little bit. Based on the
Well,
attorney
could do
who's
that.
involved, I'm skeptical. Man, I don't know. I think a lot more information really needs to drop before I think, okay, it's time to cancel him.
Mhm.
I'm certainly not ready to say that at this point. I haven't heard nearly enough from like one phone call clipped from a not in context
Yeah.
to say this because I'm sure I've said some awful shit that clipped in proper context around certain people would not come off pretty good. But how old is he? He's well over 50, right?
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, he was playing back in the 90s there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
He's well over 50, making more bank than he ever has. It's gotten it's done exceptionally well over the last 12 months with his podcast.
Mhm.
Apparently, I'm sure that the timing here is not coincidental because he's renegotiating that after he's had probably the best media year of his life by far.
Yeah.
The only thing I can't say, no matter how this sort of plays out, Shannon, come on, man, you know better than this.
Yeah. Yeah.
To sort of like get involved with that. Did Trevor Bauer teach you nothing?
Yeah.
Trevor
We'll
Bauer's
wait,
not. No, that's another.
wait and see what comes of it. So early stages, a lot of
Oh
stuff's
yeah.
gonna change by next week or 2 weeks from now. So
Mm.
kind of put that one on the back burner.
We'll put that on the back burner until there's more to say on that. Because I'm not gonna accuse one way or the other at this point. I don't have nearly enough information. I do have information enough for one thing that I want to vent on. I didn't tell you I was going to say this
No?
again, but I can say here's the dumbest person of all time or the biggest patsy in basketball history. Hey, Nico Harrison, shut up. He's still doubling down saying the following: defense wins championships. I agree with that. I don't know how Klay Thompson figures into that when you went out and got him, but okay. And then he also says he was surprised by the Mav fan base reaction to how Luca left. And I didn't know they loved him that much. I'm paraphrasing, but it's basically that.
Yeah.
You're either the biggest moron, and I don't know that you are because you built something pretty cool the last year and then tore it all apart. Either you're doing this because you believe this or you're being paid to do this by the new ownership.
Yeah, the whole timing of everything, just limiting it to I want this player
Mm.
and we got to make this work without kind of offering it out across the league and seeing what you could do the best deal for. Really did kind of come off as odd. And you're right. I mean, it's still obviously in the crowds of the Maverick fans, as a couple of them were sitting behind the Dallas Stars players bench last night with their "Please Fire Nico" shirts on. So
I missed
getting
that, but that's
getting some
fantastic.
getting some airtime there.
As it should be. So the conspiracy theorist in me and a lot of people say, okay, I wonder how much those Las Vegas Mavericks tickets are going to be in 2030.
Yeah.
Because that's how it looks. But That's sort of like the one thing I wanted to like vent off my chest here. And I didn't know that about the Stars game. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But one take that I want to get into, and this is pretty much I'm laying this all on your lap because you're the driving expert in this crew and the whole Not in Hall of Fame crew.
All right.
Because it sure as hell isn't me. Uh, it's not any of us, to my knowledge. Me, well, I don't know. Maybe there's other people in our group that really like this, and we don't know because it never comes up. That's possible.
Yeah.
But I've tasked upon you to tell everyone the nominees for the NASCAR class of 2026. It's actually not
Mhm.
2025. I don't know why they would do it that early, but that's a minor thing for me to worry about.
Yeah.
So go ahead and let everyone know who they are, and if you were a voter, who you would pick.
All right. Yeah, no problem. So the NASCAR ballot did come out recently here, and there's actually three parts to the ballot. You have the modern era ballot, which consists of 10 nominees. The pioneer ballot, which is kind of what it sounds, a little bit more, say like the veterans ballot or the senior ballot if you're talking like
Mhm.
baseball or football. And then you have your landmark award, which is contributors. So there's three categories. The modern era, you'll have two of the 10 will be selected. Pioneer will have one of the five selected, and the landmark will have one of the five selected. So we'll start out with the modern era, which is the one that most casual fans, people that watch Sports Center on, especially on a Sunday evening, you'll have heard a lot of these names before. Um, but the most prominent name on this ballot here is Kurt Busch, who recently retired. Um, Prior Series champion, along with Daytona 500 champion, and over 30 race wins in his career. Then you get into some of the little bit more older names, but still familiar names. You got Neil Bonnet, 18-time winner. Harry Gant, 18-time winner. Randy LaJoie had a lot of success in the Xfinity Series, which is the step below the Cup Series. Greg,
But
who is
before you go any further,
yeah,
just
yeah.
to explain to some of the people here, and maybe myself, what's the
Sure.
Xfinity series?
So Xfinity Series is kind of like the proving ground for the younger racers to advance into the Cup Series, to kind of get used to some of the speeds of the cars, some of the power behind it, work their way up. I don't want to call it minor leagues because that's not really exactly what it is. A lot of the drivers kind of top out there and have some really strong careers there, as Randy LaJoie did. But it is kind of the proving ground where the younger drivers will develop their skills and then move into the Cup Series.
Okay. As you're going forward, if there's a few other, because I know there's some other series that I'm not
Mhm.
familiar with. Needless to say, I think everyone here listening knows what NASCAR is.
Sure.
It's the other series that doesn't get on television that I think a lot of people might be curious about, including myself.
Yeah, they don't get the prime time slots yet, but
Yeah.
they do have
I know it's in your radar because it said maybe we can record tomorrow. Now I'm going to a truck thing, so I imagine a truck race. So there you go.
speaking of truck races, Greg Biffle,
There you go.
Craftsman Truck Series. So
Okay.
kind of like it sounds there, it's NASCAR trucks. So
That
you
sounds
have
fun.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's a little different. But so he's a nominee this year and is a former Truck Series champion and also an Xfinity Series champion.
Hmm.
And then you have several uh, not drivers, but like pit not pit crew chiefs and things like that. So Tim Brewer is a two-time NASCAR Series champion crew chief. Randy Dorton was an engine builder, won over 9 championships across NASCAR's different series. And Harry Hyde was the 1970 NASCAR Cup Series championship crew chief.
I mean,
Yeah.
just hearing those last three sentences, if you've won nine throughout not just one series
Hmm.
through building engines. That sounds like a Hall of Famer to me. That's passes my limited smell test that I have.
Yeah, and looking at this ballot here, there, like most Hall of Fame ballots, there really isn't a bad choice among the group. There's a couple that are probably easier choices based on some of their more prolific racing careers. So you, in all likelihood, you're going to get two drivers out of this ballot here. The crew chiefs and the engine builders are probably going to have to wait it out here a little bit. But the most likely candidate out of this group here, I'm looking at it going, it's going to be Kirk Busch. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the recentness probably helps him. The fact that he was racing just a couple years ago, but having that NASCAR Cup Series champion, having the most wins among the drivers that are on the ballot here this time around, probably leads him to the easy first choice there. And then the second choice, you got some older drivers here that are fan favorites. Harry Gant has been on the ballot for a number of years now. Same with Jeff Burton and Neil Bonnet. It's probably going to be one of those three that end up with the second modern era slot. And if I was picking of those drivers there, I would probably end up with Harry Gant, just for the time that he's waited already, plus what he did while he's on the track there.
Also, for his fine work in the film Stroker Ace, where he portrayed Harry Gant.
Played it better than Brett Favre played Brett Favre.
He did deliver. I honestly can say that I think he delivered his line better. He did have a line in Stroker Ace.
There you go.
Yes. I don't know. You think Cameron Diaz sort of regrets? Oh no, she didn't pick Brett.
No, she was a Dolphins fan.
Imagine redoing that one now, and it's Aaron Rodgers who shows up, and no one's cheering for that one.
No, that's a reboot we do not need.
You are close to the border. You sounded so Canadian with you adding reboot.
What are you talking about?
Nice. So I guess on to the Pioneers.
Yeah.
My understanding is it's anyone who started their career 60 years ago.
Yes. So this is kind of going back a ways here. And again, there's five candidates here. Jake Elder, three-time NASCAR champion crew chief, with some wins being, the premier races, the Daytona 500 and a couple Southern 500s. Ray Hendrick, a name that's very familiar. The Hendrick name is very familiar. One of the top teams currently in the Cup Series, and he's won over 700 times in NASCAR modified and late model sportsman. So those are, steps down even further from your Xfinity series. Those are a lot of the more local track races, your local NASCAR stock car series races that you end up with running a lot more often than what you do with the big series here. So you can 700 wins is still in any kind of
Oh my God, yeah.
event like that is massive, but it's not quite the prestige of, say, like an Xfinity Cup Series, Truck Series, things like that we currently have rolling now.
They must run a lot more races then in those circuits.
A couple times a weekend, you're
Yeah.
running from city to city, back to back to back. So you accumulate a lot of wins there in over a career that way. Third here, best name on the ballot here, Banjo Matthews. Car builder that won over 250 NASCAR Cup Series races and three championships. Then you got Larry Phillips, five-time NASCAR Weekly Series champion. And then Bob Wellborn, winner of the NASCAR Cup Series races and convertible division championships. So again, convertible division championships, so you kind of stepping down
That's
a
the way
bit
it sounds. Is it an actual convertible?
I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure that that's exactly what it means.
I wish it was.
I'd have to look it up, but I do know that it is a bit down from
Okay.
from there. So I got five extremely strong candidates. Honestly, Ray Hendrick, the Hendrick name may have some sway with him. but it really could be any of these guys. And if I was picking one, why not go with Banjo there? Just because
His name is Banjo.
his name is Banjo,
That's
and
a good reason for a lot of things.
you
It,
know,
it just is.
250 wins out of Cars You Built, Cup Series, championships on top of it. Yeah, that's a nice career.
As my uncle Randy said one time when the Toronto Blue Jays traded for Mookie Wilson, how can you not love a guy named Mookie?
Mookie was a fun player when he was with the Mets in
Yes,
the early 80s there.
absolutely. He
Yeah.
was on that 86 team, was he not? I think
He
so.
was
Yes.
he was
Yeah.
the one that grounded the
Oh,
ball
that's
that
right. Yeah,
to
yeah,
Buchner.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So all right, and then we're up to the Landmark Award, which is
Mhm.
the contributors, more the off track stuff, track owners, executives, that kind of stuff. So um Alvin Hawkins, former NASCAR's first flagman, helped establish NASCAR racing at Bowman Gray Stadium with Bill France Sr., who's known as, for developing the NASCAR series, kind of being the owner and the pioneer of that. Um, and then we got Lisa France Kennedy, so part of the France family,
Mhm.
NASCAR executive, vice chair, one of the more influential women in the sport. Dr. Joseph Matoli, who's the founder of the Pocono racetrack out there in Pennsylvania, the affectionately known as the Tricky Triangle. No turn four there, just three turns. Um, Based on, I always get the last one wrong, but Milwaukee, one of the turns is based on the banking of Milwaukee. One of the turns is based on the banking of NASCAR, the IMS, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then the third one, I want to
It's
say
based on
Reading,
the
but
Bank of America.
Bank of America. There you go. I want to say Reading racetrack, but it's one that's not currently in service anymore. So, um, next candidate is a very familiar name to sports fans, Les Richter, and that is
Mhm.
the same Les Richter that is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So he's a long time NASCAR executive. Went into NASCAR after his professional football career, and really helped grow the sport on the West Coast. Obviously Rams football player, so kind of stayed at home and helped develop it out west there. And then the last one here is Humpy Wheeler, a former president and general manager of the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and really helped develop that track into one of the premier tracks in sport today. Um, so yeah, so a lot of behind the scenes people here that are up for some hefty recognition. Um, as somebody that follows football and the Pro Football Hall of Fame, obviously it would be nice to see Les Richter get the dual accolades there. But from what I understand, kind of reading into this before we went on tonight, Humpy Wheeler seems to be the leading candidate out of this group here. So we'll see where that ends up.
Is Joe Gibbs in the NASCAR Hall of Fame? I don't
uh,
think so, but I mean, he could definitely qualify, no?
he would, if he's not, he will be at some point based
Yeah.
on his team and their success they've had.
Hmm.
But
Oh,
again, another great pro football and NASCAR crossover there.
which you don't think of.
Not too often, no.
No.
But yeah, it's an interesting ballot here. I know there's a fan vote element to it that does play a role in how the final selections are made. So if you're somebody that wants to get involved here and let your voice be heard,
You can do so.
you could do so. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that just sort of brings us to our overreactions or maybe just general reactions to the first 3 days of the NHL and NBA playoffs. Bluntly, I've got a lot more to say about the NHL playoffs, not necessarily because, well, I guess I am more of a hockey fan these days. 10 years ago, it was actually the opposite. I was a much bigger basketball fan. But hockey playoffs, even then, it's always really it's a different animal. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. You want to look at a statistical difference, hits, blocked shots. They just jump right up, even if the goals do not. You can't find that in any other sport. Also, a 1 versus 8 can be very entertaining in basketball, very, very rare. Just the chasm of talent. Well, basketball, it's a numbers thing, right? If you've got a team of 11 players and really there's only a few difference makers on each team in the NBA, stands to reason that it's going to be really, really hard in an opening round of a 16-team tournament to come up with some very intriguing matchups. Hockey, totally different. So I've got a few notes that I've got here, and I just jump in with what you whatever.
I just want to point out too, this year the NBA actually has a 1 versus 10 matchup.
That's true. I always forget about the playing.
Yeah, the Miami Heat were actually the number 10 seed when everything started, but they won their 2 games or whatever to move in. So 1 versus 10 matchup. That's your NBA playoffs there.
Yeah, which I haven't really bothered with.
Other than seeing the Oklahoma City Thunder just destroy the Grizzlies in game 1, and then locally here seeing the Husk of the Bucks franchise prepping for another first round exit.
Well, okay, then I guess we'll start off with basketball then, because I don't have that many notes on it. Because again, some of the games I didn't watch, just even for the interest of time and bluntly a lack of interest. Because a lot of these things you pretty much know what's going to happen. I did watch the OKC blowout because it was sort of fun to watch, and the Canadian me loves Shea. SGA is going to be the MVP this year unless Jokic can somehow wrest that away from him. I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that, but I think it's his to lose at this point. Watching him is so much fun. Hopefully he can become the face of the league that doesn't get himself in trouble. John Morant.
He seems, so he seems like he's cut from a little bit different cloth there. I think he's somebody that the league would be happy as a face.
Well, and I think we've also learned here, bluntly, if you're European, you're not necessarily going to be the face that much. I just went on a Luka Doncic thing, but is Luka Doncic the face of the league, even if he starts winning MVP after MVP? Probably not. Jokic has won 3 MVPs. He's won a title. He's clearly the most gifted player out there. Weird to watch because he doesn't look like, despite his size, you watch him run, he does not look like an athlete. He's not part gazelle like a lot of NBA players. But Jokic is also one of those guys who is, when he says he's happier, when Denver won that title and he said, I'm happier for my teammates, he means it. He's thinking about those veterans who've been around a lot longer, who've waited for a moment like this a lot longer than him. You can't really build a whole marketing thing around him, and he's fine with that. Luka, I don't know. Now he's in LA. We'll see what happens. So speaking of that, I went on before I get to that. With SGA, even though he's not American, he's Canadian. I think, despite our little differences that we have, I think the NBA USA is more than happy to make this guy the superstar to build everything around.
I think in North American is more the distinguishing between that and the fact that he went to school at Kentucky, right?
I think so.
But he's been known to the American audience here for a lot longer than somebody that played over in Europe and then was drafted and came over, like a Jokic or a Antetokounmpo.
And it's a style of play that people can love. He's a one-man highlight reel, a scoring machine. Yes, the marketing being in OKC doesn't help him in terms of that overall picture, but, and I'm not trying to dump on anyone in OKC. I'm just talking about national reality.
Yeah.
When it comes right down to it. So like he's fun to watch, and that's the blowouts I can sort of get behind watching. Obviously the Minnesota LA Lakers first game was very interesting because I did not predict a blowout for the T-Wolves, who have not exactly set the world on fire after a phenomenal 2020 season before that they had. But that's going to go a lot longer. So I don't have any panic. If I was a Lakers fan, I wouldn't. Where I've been so happy that this series exists is the Clippers Nuggets. The Clippers are a great story. They should not be here. You name everything they've done wrong, they've done it wrong. But turned out that that Paul George not being there has been a godsend. Kawhi is now back. Harden has played the best basketball that he has in the last 3-4 years. And this series is so much fun. We've got 2 close games. It's tied 1 each going into LA. That has been my go-to series. And I'm also enjoying watching Detroit. They just got their first playoff win in I don't know how many years. I didn't bother checking. I just know it's been a lot.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I mean, like, there's not really a whole lot of notes, except for one thing that I made a note to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
I tweeted this, and I feel like this is Giannis's last run, his last series as a Buck.
Yeah, I saw that post out there on X, and the whole franchise is kind of, I don't want to say rock bottom here with Giannis, but in his career with the team, this is, even though they are a playoff team, this is easily the weakest that this team has been with him kind of as the face of the team. A lot of it has to do with, in my opinion, the foolish trade to bring in Lillard. I have not been a fan of that trade from the start. I felt the team got worse with him coming over. Not less talented, but less of a team because of what Holiday brought as on the defensive side as the floor leader and things like that. It didn't help the timing of it, injuries and all that other shit that went along with it. But I think that was kind of in my eyes the start of the downfall. Then you just have your other top players aging out with Lopez and Chris Middleton, who battled injuries the last couple of years, wasn't really himself. They're in a world of hurt right now with Indiana just having their number these last couple of years, seeming to have it again this year. I believe that the league is behind a lot of the stories in the media that get written about Giannis, and is it time for the Bucks to trade him. I think they want him the league wants him out of Milwaukee and into a more marketable franchise. So I do think that my conspiracy hat is on for that one, that they're the ones that are kind of feeding the stories to the scribes out there that are just repeating what the league wants to hear.
I've never seen him, though, facially look this frustrated.
You play out your 82 games to get to this point, and then you lay an egg in game 1, and it's really not much more or less he can do. You look at the team around him. Mm-hmm. Lillard's out, injured. Supposed to be back for tonight, but then you have what's left of Brook Lopez. You have Kyle Kuzma, who's the main return on the Chris Middleton trade, who failed to make a dent in the score sheet in game 1. And Pat Connaughton, Bobby Portis. Okay, maybe they were nice role players at one point. Don't really see them being players that are going to come out there and help win a series for you. What else has he got on this team? I mean, they have no young talent. The draft picks they've they've managed to hold on to have not panned out. They don't have any first round picks for the next year, but who knows if that's going to be moved in an attempt to try to bring somebody in to help keep Giannis in town. If this series goes the way game one appeared to lead it down, to a 4 or 5 game Indiana win here, you may be right. They may not have any choice other than to trade Giannis to try to rebuild the franchise. And the thing with that is wherever you're sending him, you're going to get, what are you going to get back? You're not going to get back value that's the same. You're just not. You don't trade the second or top 1, 2, 3 player in the league and get that kind of return back, regardless of who you send it to. So I don't know. It's shaping up to be a real mess here. And once if they do decide to take the route to move him on, that new arena they built is going to be have a lot of echo space in there from the lack of attendance.
I wonder if Thanos gets put in that deal.
He was out. They didn't re-sign him this year because of the was it the Achilles injury or knee injury? I know it was a leg injury that basically had him on the shelf for the year. I think it was off-season training, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, so he had less minutes than Bronny. That's great. All right. Enough of that. I guess we can move on to hockey.
Sure.
I'm going to open up with the series that obviously I've been watching the most as a Jets fan, and I've been a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. Jets won the first 2 games. I'm very happy about that against a very competitive St. Louis team. The Jets' depth shone through, just positioning everything they're doing right, and they came back twice in that game 1. St. Louis is not out of this the way they've been playing. But kudos to the Jets because there was a lot of us who were certainly nervous. And I think a lot of people in the hockey community thinking that it wouldn't surprise them if Winnipeg laid an egg in the first 2 games.
Getting that game 1 win the way they did, coming back late, I think really was what that team needed with all the previous year failures that they've had. A lot of it falling on Hellebuck's shoulders, but you lose as a team. So for them, I think that's good. And like they say with every series, you're out of the series until you lose at home. So St. Louis goes back home now. If they win the next 2 back to even, now it's a 3-game series. Best 2 out of 3. Anything could happen at that point.
Right. And they were playing well enough to believe that they're not out of this. Next, I've got Colorado Dallas, which I had as one of the series I was loving the most. The first game was not as entertaining as it wasn't that close at all. But game 2, Dallas brought it. Dallas brought everything they had. Heiskanen came back, although he didn't do that much in that game, but it's certainly an emotional boost around, which we're going to see the opposite way, because it looks like Gabriel Landeskog is going to, I was going to say former captain, he's still the captain of Colorado, will be suiting up for game 3. And this is also the great thing about sports, where you get these unsung heroes out of nowhere. Colin Blackwell getting a goal when he was a healthy scratch in game 1. And it's a fun game. It's a fun series. This is going 7. I truly believe that.
Yeah, Colorado came in. They did what they needed to do, get a win in Dallas. Colin Blackwell, former Milwaukee Admiral, playing the hero last night with that overtime goal. So yeah, it's a competitive series. If Dallas can go up to Denver now and win 1 there and steal home ice back again, much like we just discussed with St. Louis, it comes down to a 3-game series then.
Yeah,
and they have 2 of the 3 at home.
I think that's where it's going to go. Just Dallas is going to, because they limped into this, even though they were the heavy favorite from a lot of people for a lot of time, and including myself. Dallas is the team that scares me the most as a Jets fan, mainly because they've always played us so well. Right now, game 2 is happening. But we've seen for game one of the Vegas Minnesota series, which it wasn't as physical as I thought it was going to be. It's all these series are physical, but Minnesota will change that up. I'm not worried about them. But here's the name you need to all remember: Pavel Dorofshev. Fayev. I can never pronounce that. People forget, including myself, 35 goals this year. He's going to have 300, 400 in his career.
Yeah, he's able to replicate this past season several times over. He's going to make himself a lot of money too in the process.
Yeah, he's young. He's on a team that very good, very deep team. So, yeah, I mean, I think that series is going to get a lot more physical. It has to, if Minnesota is going to pull this off.
Yeah, they need to be the more physical team to throw a little more defense at them, kind of get in their grill and really make them uncomfortable out there and wear them down that way. Because Vegas is a bit of an older team as well, so they're not that means that they're not conditioned or anything like that. But it's you have the experience, but the body has taken more blows at that point.
Mm-hmm. And we're definitely going to see that youth versus experience one coming up in a series that's so much fun, even if it's a sweep. Oh, maybe not. I don't know. Closing out the West, Edmonton, Los Angeles Lakers, game one. That was
Los Angeles Kings.
Yeah, probably the funnest game. Did I say something other than the Kings?
You said the Lakers.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, sorry. Because in my notes I had LAK, which
yeah,
Lakers. Sorry. Edmonton Oilers, Los Angeles Kings. I think the most frustrated man in all of sports isn't Giannis, it's Connor McDavid.
When it was 4-0 with 10 seconds to go in the second period, and he basically just said, fuck it, we're scoring a goal right here. And, held off very experienced and very strong Hanze Kopitar.
Yeah.
Kopitar.
Yeah.
And then laser passed across to Draisaitl, who ripped it home. Just the determination on that shift there to get something before the period ended, make it 4-1, which obviously propelled him into the third, and really made that third period very nervous for LA fans.
Well, they took the lead.
Yeah.
They took the lead, and then they lost in the last minute. And this is just another gut punch. And this is just like last year. Edmonton just always seems to have to. They're the same problem for the last 3 seasons: 2 aces and a bunch of 2s. Barring a poker thing. I mean, only it's a 2, 3, 4 where you can't make a full house.
Yeah.
So it's so tough. And it's all over his face, and they can only do so much. LA is so much deeper than they were last year. The Kings seem hungrier, except for Connor McDavid. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, the Kings, they've been knocked out how many times in a row by Edmonton here?
3.
Yeah, so I mean, that's their white whale. They have to get past, kind of, to borrow a metaphor there. And who knows what happens after that. As you said, Los Angeles is a very deep team. Not so sure about the goaltending, how far that can take them in a series like this, but they are young, they are talented, and they have something to prove.
It's better than Edmonton's goaltending. Edmonton hasn't had a good goalie in forever.
No, and you ask any Edmonton fan, personally, they'll tell you.
Yeah. So I said in our hockey preview, the series I'm least interested in is going pretty much the way I thought it would. I did, as we're recording this, the first game is in the books on the Tuesday night on the 22nd, and it was another. I don't want to say wasn't as easy as game 1, but Carolina is now 2-0. The Devils, again, you're without your top gun, and Carolina top to bottom. I don't see New Jersey can get a win here. They're not getting past 5 games unless something drastically happens.
Yeah, they started the series without Jack Hughes. They lost Luke Hughes partway through game one there. But the talent level, I think, without Jack out there, it's just too much for the Devils to overcome.
Mm-hmm. I guess my most biggest disappointment, because I hate Toronto. Toronto won game one easily 6-2, really showing off Ottawa's inexperience because Toronto won this off power plays. Ottawa wasn't necessarily outplayed. Well, they were outplayed to a point. Brady Tkachuk can only hit so many people. Lord knows he tried. I think they out Toronto by 20.
Yeah. And that's your first playoff game, in how many years? All those players,
Brady
a
never
bunch of
had
that
one.
was their right. I say a bunch of those guys that is their first playoff game ever.
Mhm.
The adrenaline level is going to be off the charts to start with there, and you're on the road. You're against it's the Battle of Ottawa, or sorry, the Battle of Ontario.
Mhm.
You want to go and prove that you're not the little brother. You want to prove that you're ready to compete, and the Leafs let them run around and take some penalties and capitalize on it. I still hoping that Ottawa finds their groove and can eradicate the Leafs here
So
from the
do I.
series.
So do I. That is something we are definitely in an alignment.
Yeah.
But Toronto earned that win,
Hmm.
and if Ottawa's going to pull something off, it's going to be a little bit smarter hockey. They can do it, but a lot more things have to go right for them. Toronto has more horses. They just do.
They do. Yeah.
Well, speaking of horses, we have Alex Ovechkin, who, my God, first off, kudos to Montreal for bringing this to overtime. And this is the true battle of the vets versus, hey, we're young. We've never been here before. A stat came up. Ovechkin's got more playoff goals than the entire Toronto Montreal Canadiens players.
The shocking thing out of that,
Yeah.
he had never won an overtime or never won a game with an overtime game winner
Yeah,
until
that was the first.
the other night.
Yeah. So like what he's getting, he's so much better this year than he was last year. He is you ever read the Picture of Dorian Gray, or you know the story?
No.
Okay, well, the Picture of Dorian Gray, it's based, I forget how this sort of transpires, but Dorian makes a deal, I think with the devil or something, and he he looks the same for the rest of his life, but his picture ages. Somehow, Alex Ovechkin made the same deal, only he's aging, his body's aging, and somewhere there's a picture of him much younger that's just not as good a player. I don't know what it is. He has some kind of voodoo magic, and it's not like he does what Tom Brady does. He doesn't hit the gym every day. He has a lot of vodka. He eats a lot of crap.
Yeah.
But he is a smarter hockey player. He's still the same powerful hockey player. He's throwing hits out there. He is a better teammate than he's ever been. And I wrote down here, we spoke, I don't remember, I know you were in this, I just don't remember when we discussed it. Uh, if there was a Mount Rushmore, but I have a 5 in hockey. Gretzky, Howe, Rocket Richard, Lemieux, Bobby Orr. If Alex Ovechkin keeps doing what he's doing in these playoffs, keeps racking up goal after goal after goal, and then wins his second cup, could he knock one of those 5 off my list or your list? I don't know if we have the same list, but like, don't. I think there's a lot of people, if they come up with their top 5, he's already there. He's already the greatest goal scorer of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you're gonna ever knock Gretzky or Howe off any kind of hockey Mount Rushmore. Bobby Orr has a lot of people that feel he is the greatest player of all time.
Put me in that list.
Yeah. So right there's your top 3. You mentioned Mario Lemieux and Rocket Richard.
Yeah.
Now Lemieux obviously has the benefit of being a more modern player, even though he hasn't played for a while. competed against Gretzky, so he was always kind of second fiddle to Gretzky on a lot of these end of season charts or teams and things like that. But he was every bit the superstar that Wayne was, just
Absolutely.
a different style.
Hmm.
Richard, obviously one of the greatest goal scorers in league history, but again, you're looking at somebody that played 50, 60, 70 years ago now. And
Hmm.
if you ask people today, do most of them even know that there's a Rocket Richard trophy for the goal scoring champion of the league, or why it's named for Rocket Richard? Probably not. So I think if you were to ask people today, it's kind of just do a modern day poll, I think you would see Richard be the one that would fall out of those five. But it's so hard to kind of compare eras like that. What he did when he did it is, and what he meant to that dynasty there in Montreal at the time.
Hmm.
I think he's got to be there. So Obi, I think maybe he's climbing up the mountain still, but I don't think he's there. And I'm not sure that he's got enough career left to really displace one of those five.
Well, yeah, who knows? Look, but let's say he gets 1,000 goals. That's doable if he does what he's doing. Wow, I
It's
mean, what was it?
roughly two
I
more
mean,
seasons based on his current
mm,
pace. I mean, he lost how many games this year and still ended up with over 40.
yeah, it's got to be something he's thinking about. Fans are thinking about it. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. How many years did it take him to get to 900 though?
Right, but but he still continues to evolve, which
He
is
does. Yeah, he's not
is
slipping, that's for sure.
insane. It's
Yeah,
yeah, like
it's a
this might be the most impressive year I've ever seen from.
39-year-old.
Yeah, I was trying to think that, like, do I say older player? Because I'm trying to think, like, what's my threshold here?
Yeah.
Or let's just say 38 or above.
Yeah, I'm 35 and above. That's where the cutoff is with a lot of the contract
Yeah.
shenanigans and things like that. So, yeah, usually players that, 38, 39, they're more the veteran presence in the locker room. Maybe they get that late game defensive zone face off if you're a centerman or something like that to kind of win a game towards the end there. But they're not putting up 42 goals in 60 games or whatever you did this year.
Yeah, they're there for their flashes of the brilliance that they can still do.
Mhm.
Their hockey IQ and the fact that they're going to teach the young kids and keep them in line.
And they're still going to get the calls on the ice too, is for
That's
that
true too.
respect.
That's a good point. Ovi is still crushing it there. I gotta look that up. Who's had the best season over 38 among them? Like, I need another thing I gotta do. But I guess what that sort of brings up my thing. Although I forgot, I didn't realize. I don't know how I missed this. Why the hell is the Battle of Florida starting today?
Yeah, I don't know why they end up delaying that start as long as they did. The
Yeah,
only thing I can think of is what drives every sport nowadays: money, TV.
well,
You
they
wanted
should
to make sure there was
say,
on.
yeah, yes. I don't know. But that'll be interesting. The winner of the Battle of Florida faces the winner of the Battle of Ontario, and I have no joke. There's got to be something. I don't know what it is, but if it's Toronto who advances, I'm going to become Florida man.
Nothing wrong with that. I like the Panthers. I think they have another chance to make a deep run throughout this playoffs here. So
Hmm.
I think if when they make it past Tampa, if the next step is Toronto, I think they take that step after on top of Toronto there.
Well, sounds good. Well, there was one other thing I was kicking around venting about. Nah, no, I'll just do it the next time that topic comes up again.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And I'll leave that as a mystery for the rest of you.
Comment below. Think what's Kirk thinking?
Yeah. What's Kirk thinking? Yeah, I haven't had too many comments lately, so maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But that's okay, because that's the one thing about every show here in the Buchnerverse. I'm in it. So I gotta get other people doing stuff for me and just not. Yeah. I gotta learn to farm things out. I don't know. One day I'll figure that out. But that day's not today. But like I say every day, wherever you are, wherever you may be, make this day count because it never comes again. Take care, everybody.
Good night.